Okay, welcome back to Gut Check Time. I'm your host. Today we'll be talking about Week 10 in college football. Um, Before that though, could you please hit that like button and please subscribe down below if you like the content. Well, let's get into this. Thursday night game. This video should be up by the start of this game. It's going to be West Virginia versus Baylor. West Virginia is getting 19 points on the road here. The over-under here is 57. Baylor's playing good football right now, ranked inside the top 15. Matt Rule really has it going there, and he's the perfect guy if you want to build a culture, and that's what Baylor desperately needed after Art Briles left and all the allegations and rape culture that was going on there. I mean, that's real stuff, and it was Baylor was in pretty bad in a pretty Baylor was in dire straits, and they needed someone like that, and they brought in Matt Rule. I think they only won one game his first year. They won 7 games last year. They're probably going to win 10 games this year if you include the bowl game. He's a good coach. He's going to build a good culture wherever he goes. They're going to be hardworking, tough, and they're never going to complain. I like them a lot, and I think they're going to win this game pretty easily. But I do think West Virginia covers. I think Baylor wins this 34-17. I think West Virginia covers at 19 points. Kind of a weird number. And I'm going to take, like I said, West Virginia plus 19. I'm going to take the under of the 57 points because I believe both these defenses, especially West Virginia up front, their front four is very good. After that, their secondary is not very good. But the thing is, that's I would say is the weakness of the Baylor football team is their wide receivers. They only really have one really good one in Denzel Mims. The rest are eh. And then JaMycal Hasty at running back is pretty good. And Charlie Brewer at quarterback is a very good quarterback. But I believe West Virginia will be able to hold them to about their average. I think their average is between 30 to 37 points. But Baylor's defense is spectacular, probably the best in the Big 12 other than TCU. So I'm going to take Baylor to win the game, but West Virginia to cover. Next up, we're going to have Michigan versus Maryland. I do think Michigan has finally found their groove. They've started to play a lot better on offense. Obviously, they scored 21 points in the last 3 quarters versus Penn State and then 45 versus Notre Dame. So 66 points over the last, 7 quarters of football. So they've gotten a lot better offensively. And that's to be expected. They got off to a slow start and everyone was crucifying them. And I was kind of medium still on Michigan. I still kind of am. But teams most of the time aren't like LSU. It doesn't take a week or an off season and then a week into the season you're just spectacular on offense. It usually takes a year to 2 to develop a culture, and they went from a pro style offense more under center to a spread type offense. They have the weapons to do it, but it just takes a while to adjust to that from a personnel perspective. And LSU, that's what makes LSU so amazing. They've done such a spectacular job adjusting from that to coming into this more spread offense. And I think that has a lot to do with the quarterback. I know Shea Patterson played at Ole Miss spread offense, but let's be honest there, he wasn't great there. He was okay. And then you took him under center. He was just starting to get the hang of that, and then you brought him back into the spread. So it's going to take time there. And like I said, they've gotten better. I'm going to have Michigan winning this game versus Maryland. They're 21.5-point favorites. That 21.5 points is very nice because they win by 3 touchdowns. You win the bet. I think they'll win by a little bit more than that. I have Michigan winning this game 45-20, just 20. Michigan minus 21.5 is the take here with the over of 56. I believe, like I said, Michigan's clicking on offense, and their defense is still going to play fantastic versus really bad teams. And Maryland, and their defense is still going to play well versus average or below average teams. Let's face it here, Maryland at best is probably a 6-6 team this year. They can never seem to keep their quarterbacks healthy. And they have skill, they have weapons all around, but obviously can't keep the most important position healthy, so that always hurts. So like I said, I'm taking Michigan to win the game and cover the 21.5 points. Next up, Virginia Tech versus Notre Dame. I do believe Virginia Tech loses by less than 17.5. I think they lose by just that half point. Again, that half point is nice there. I think they're going to lose this game 37-20. I think Notre Dame is not a terrible team, but they're not a great team like we saw. I think they're probably, just like my Texas Longhorns, I think they're going to go probably 9-3, 8-4, and finish between 15-25. Not enough elite depth, but their starters are elite. The problem is, to be a championship team, you need elite depth. Either my Texas Longhorns or Notre Dame has that, but I believe Notre Dame does get the win 37-20. I'm taking Virginia Tech, though, plus 17.5, and I'm taking the under of 58. Next up, Utah versus Washington. I'm going to take an upset here. I think Utah now ranked inside the top 12 again. Washington unranked at 5-3. I'm going to take Washington to win this game 26-24. The reason is It's at home, a great place to play. And I don't believe in Tyler Huntley enough against this defense on the road. Obviously, they met in the college football, or not the college football playoff, but the Pac-12 championship game last year, and it was a boring game. I believe the final score was 7-0 or 3-0. It was somewhere along those lines, and Washington ended up winning. I think Washington wins the game this year, but it's going to be a little bit more high scoring. Washington 26-24. I'm taking Washington plus 3 points. I'm taking the over of 47.5. SMU versus Memphis. I think this is going to be a very good football game. I think both of these defenses are a little bit underappreciated, especially Memphis. So I'm going to actually take Memphis in the upset here. I know SMU's ranked higher, Memphis at 24, I believe. SMU is either at 15 or 16. I'm going to take Memphis 34-30 for the fact is their defense is a little bit better than SMU's, and it's at home. Shane Buechele, spectacular, obviously, with my Texas Longhorns, had a great freshman year, and then Sam Ehlinger took over that spot. He's a great quarterback. He puts great touch on his passes. He throws a beautiful deep ball, but he can be had, and he can be had with very good disguised blitzes, and I expect Memphis to pull out a few of those this week, maybe force them to 1 or 2 turnovers. That'll be the difference. I'm taking SMU though in the points. I'm taking SMU plus 6 points here. I'm taking Memphis to win the game, and I'm taking the under of 71.5. I think that's way too many points. It's going to be cold, and both these defenses are better than people think they are. Next up, Georgia versus Florida, the cocktail party. An overrated rivalry in my opinion. I'm going to take Florida to win this game though, 26-23. So I'm taking Florida plus the 6 points, and I'm taking the over of 45 points. The reason why, quarterback to quarterback, I'm taking Kyle Trask over Jake Fromm. I think Jake Fromm is a glorified game manager. I think Georgia has more talent. Florida, but I'm always going to go with the QB head coach combo if it's 2-0, and it's 2-0 here. I think Dan Mullen's a better coach than Kirby Smart, and I believe Kyle Trask to be a better quarterback than Jake Fromm. I'm going to take Florida to win this game, and I could be wrong. Like I said, Georgia, one of the 3 most talented rosters in the country. If Kirby Smart loses this game, he is underachieving. This team should have no more than 2 losses total in a whole year. He will already have 2 losses, and he'll have some hard games coming up. That'll do it for the gambling picks. And by the way, on the gambling picks, I've started to struggle here in college football. I'm 42-1, still 500, so not terrible. Now, straight up picks, which we'll get into, I'm 102-25, so very good there. And I went 11-4 last week. Next up, North Carolina State versus number 23 Wake Forest. I'm taking Wake Forest here. I don't believe in North Carolina State. I haven't probably ever. I'm trying to think the last time Russell Wilson's last time I believed in them. They haven't had a good enough quarterback since then, but I will say the only good thing about their team last year was their quarterback. It was overrated because Ryan Finley was a good player. Next up, we're going to go Kansas State versus Kansas in a rivalry game. I'm going to take Kansas with the upset. I think Les Miles is starting to get things going there, and I think the Big 12 next year is going to be loaded. I think Kansas is going to be much better. Kansas State is just getting it going. Matt Wells at Texas Tech, Neil Brown at West Virginia. It's going to become a better league the next couple years. Next up, Wofford versus Clemson. Clemson will destroy them probably by 40-plus points. I'm going to take Clemson. Ole Miss versus Auburn. I'm going to take number 11 Auburn here over Ole Miss. It's number 17 Cincinnati versus ECU. I'm going to take Cincinnati here, even though they are on the road. ECU is probably one of the 3 worst teams in the American Athletic Conference, along with USF and UConn. So I'm taking Cincinnati. Next up, Oregon versus USC. I'm going to take Oregon. I think this is going to be a close game, though. Again, USC has top 15 talent. I think that will keep them in games all the time, but the problem is it comes down to the coach. I believe Clay Helton, even with an 8-4 record, should keep his job. That doesn't mean I think he's a good coach, but I think it would be unfair to unload a coach after this type of season. I would take Oregon, though, to win in a close game. And the last game, Boise State versus San Jose State. I'm going to take Boise State. San Jose State's terrible. I'm taking Boise State, even though it's on the road. That'll do it for my college football gambling picks and predictions for Week 10. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Thank you.